Imagine hearing someone beg for their life, and instead of helping them, someone presses record. On the night of February 23rd, 2020, what seemed like an ordinary evening inside a quiet Florida apartment would soon become one of the most shocking murder cases in recent years. Sarah Boone told police that she and her boyfriend, Jorge Torres Jr., had been drinking wine and playing hide-and-seek. According to her, Jorge climbed inside a suitcase as part of the game. She zipped it closed, believing he could get out whenever he wanted. After drinking heavily, she said she went upstairs, fell asleep, and forgot he was still inside. The next morning, she claimed she found Jorge unresponsive and immediately called 911, insisting it had all been a terrible accident. At first, investigators couldn't rule out her story. It sounded unusual, but they needed evidence before reaching any conclusions. Detectives carefully examined the apartment and the suitcase where Jorge's body was found. The medical examiner later determined that he had died from asphyxiation after being trapped inside for hours. His body also showed injuries that suggested he had desperately tried to escape. As investigators continued searching for answers, they collected Sarah's cell phone. What they found inside changed everything. Hidden in the phone were 2 videos recorded only hours before Jorge died. In those recordings, Jorge could be heard begging Sarah to let him out. His voice became weaker as he repeatedly said he couldn't breathe. Instead of opening the suitcase, Sarah continued recording. Those videos immediately became the most important evidence in the entire investigation. What Sarah described as a tragic accident was now being viewed in a completely different way. Detectives compared her statements with the timeline, the physical evidence, and the videos on her phone. Slowly, her story began to fall apart. The investigation was no longer about how Jorge died. The real question was whether Sarah Boone had knowingly left him trapped inside that suitcase while listening to his desperate pleas for help. That answer would soon be decided in court. Sarah Boone was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. From the very beginning, she insisted that Jorge's death had been a tragic accident. She claimed she never imagined he wouldn't be able to escape the suitcase, and repeatedly told investigators that she loved him and would never intentionally hurt him. However, prosecutors believed the evidence told a very different story. The videos found on Sarah's phone became the centerpiece of the trial. Jurors watched as Jorge pleaded to be released, saying he couldn't breathe and begging to be let out. Instead of helping him, Sarah continued recording. Prosecutors argued that her words and actions showed she was fully aware of his condition and chose to leave him trapped inside. During the trial, the jury also heard about the couple's troubled relationship. Both had accused each other of domestic violence in the past, and prosecutors argued that the events of that night were not simply a drunken accident, but the result of anger and revenge. Sarah's defense team claimed she had been intoxicated and never believed Jorge was in real danger. They argued there was no intent to kill and that the entire incident was a terrible mistake. But the prosecution pointed to the videos, Sarah's changing statements, and the physical evidence, arguing that they all supported the same conclusion. After hearing days of testimony and reviewing every piece of evidence, the jury reached its verdict. Sarah Boone was found guilty of second-degree murder. The judge later sentenced her to life in prison. The case quickly gained worldwide attention. not only because of its shocking circumstances, but because one of the strongest pieces of evidence came from the suspect's own cell phone. The recordings captured the final moments of Jorge Torres Jr.'s life and became impossible for the jury to ignore. To this day, the Sarah Boone case is often discussed as a reminder that digital evidence can completely change the course of a criminal investigation. A story that began with a claim of a harmless game ended with a life sentence, proving that sometimes the most important witness isn't a person at all. Sometimes it's a phone recording that reveals the truth